Welcome. Today we are expanding on the notion of capital budgeting by looking more in depth at the concept of net present value. Now, net present value derives a lot of its value. It's very similar to the way we do other types of asset pricing. Essentially, we are estimating cash flows into the future, and then we are looking at what our cost is, and then we are looking at what our net change in wealth is going to be. Okay, so that is a very similar thing between capital budgeting and asset valuation. So what we are going to do today is that we are looking at, one, we have to come up with an estimate of future cash flows. Okay, we are looking at the estimate of future cash flows, and then we are looking at the cost. Then we're looking at the riskiness of cash flows, our cost, right, the cost of the firm today, and then we are wrapping this all around this idea of how much does it actually increase the value of my company. Okay, so that's what we're doing with net present value. The way we write this up is that it's very similar way to the way we've done the uneven cash flows in past sections. It's basically the same exact time value of money formula that is given as this, or this. Right, this is the same exact thing we're doing with the uneven cash flows, is that we're looking at estimating our cash flows in year 1, year 2, year 3, all the way up until time period N. Okay, so all the way out here until time period N, and we're estimating our cash flows. Then we're using a required return, which is just given based off of the riskiness of the project. And then we are subtracting out off of cash flow 0 right here. That is basically what typically is going to be what our cost of the project is. We are spending cash right now for these future cash flows, and then we're going to evaluate that and come up with that NPV. Our general rule here is that we will do a project if our net present value is greater than 0, right? That is a go project. So we evaluate some projects. We're looking at doing two different projects here. We have project A and project B. Okay, now when we look at these two different projects, is that we have different amounts here. If we just add up our numbers here, right, we are going to end up with $3,800 for project A, and project B is going to be $4,000. Okay, just total cash flows. We didn't do any sort of discounting here. We're not using any sort of time value of money. So if we look at these two projects, we're like, maybe we should do project B. That would be an incorrect assumption, right? Both of them cost us $3,000. One is going to generate $4,000 in cash. The other one's going to generate $3,800 in cash. Now, as we've learned in past chapters, we have to evaluate this based off of time value of money characteristics and figure out if this is more appropriate, right? Which one is actually going to be? Because of what we notice is that project A gets cash flows much sooner, right? They get their largest cash flow in year 1, whereas project B gets their largest cash flow in year 4, right? So there's going to be some difference here. Okay? So what we're going to do right now is we're going to work through and actually figure out what the NPV on these two are. You're going to figure it out. Now, what we do when we're going to sketch this out is we're going to map out all of our time periods, okay? And then we are going to place each of the cash flows within that time period, okay? And then so now we have mapped out and put each of our cash flows in each time period, but now we have to discount it back. And let's go ahead and use a discount rate here of 10%. Okay, just keep numbers round. And so what do we place in time period 1? All right, it's going to be 1.1 raised to which power? It's going to be raised to the first power. And then we go to year 2, it's going to be 1.1 squared. Year 3 is 1.1 to the third. Year 4 is 1.1 to the fourth, right? What do we do to the negative 3,000? Nothing, because that's coming out of our pocket right now. We don't have to discount that amount, okay? So we brought all those back into current values, and we have come up with an NPV equal to $161.33. So that is a positive NPV project. That means that we should be doing that project. That is also showing that we have an increase in wealth. That's one way you can look at this. If we spend this $3,000 right now, we have these expected cash flows. It's going to generate us our 10% return, and it's going to increase our wealth in the amount of $161.33. So yes, we should look at doing that project. Okay. Now we want to evaluate this compared to Project B. Project B has more cash coming in, but the cash comes in later. Right? So we need to compare the cash coming in later and see what the NPV of Project B is. So we have the same mapping out of number of time periods, and then we're also now going to place those amounts into each of those blocks. So all of our cash flows are now in the appropriate block, and then we have to discount this all the way back to a present value. So we put all of these over the top of 1 plus r to the t. Okay, but what you're seeing right now isn't entirely accurate because we do have to put the exponents there, right? So the first $400 cash flow coming in year 1, that's going to be 1.1 raised to the first power. Year 2, that's going to be 1.1 raised to the second, and then it's going to be 3 and 4. Okay? So that is showing us is that we have $1,500 for periods that is going to be earning, that we need to generate a 10% discount rate off of. So that tells us we are going to have a net present value here of $108.67. Okay? So that means now we have two NPV values for Project A and for Project B. So is Project B a project we should be doing? Yes, it's going to increase our wealth by $108.67. Okay, so that is a project that we should be doing. Okay. Now, if these are not mutually exclusive projects, if we can do both of them, let's say it's putting a new sign up in the restaurant, and let's say it's putting new tables in the restaurant. It's not one or the other, right? I can do both of those. So I am going to do both of those because it's going to increase the wealth. It's going to increase the income of my restaurant. Okay? So however, if these are mutually exclusive projects. With mutually exclusive, that means that we cannot do both of them. Okay? If they are mutually exclusive, that means that we should be doing the project that has the highest NPV, right? We should be doing the one that is going to generate more wealth for us, right? We are always in search of the highest return. So an example of this would be, I can go with a sign that has neon in it, or I can go with a sign that doesn't have neon in it, right? And so that would be the example here for our NPVs, okay? So if we are looking at a mutually exclusive project, which one should I select? Of course, Project A. That's the one that we should be doing. So just to recap, NPV is our net change in wealth, right? We are spending money to make money. So we basically take the present value of future cash flows minus our present cost, and that is going to tell us our net change in wealth.